Good afternoon. Happy Election Day. Let's do some business. We are doing it live right here, doing more at 4 weekday afternoons. We get right down to business with the news-driven hour right after Ben Shapiro and just before the 790 KBC News Blitz with Randy Wang at 5. Motec on Money, live on the air on 790 KBC, streaming live online worldwide at kbc.com, and your on-demand Motec on Money podcast, kbc.com, Apple, iTunes, and all of your favorite podcast platforms. By the way, extended coverage of election night tonight. Yours truly will be on with the one and only John Phillips and Randy Wang. Starting at 7 o'clock, we'll be bringing you the election results as the evening goes on. Stocks finishing higher today as investors await the results of the 2024 presidential election. Polls starting to close now as voters wait to see whether former President Trump or Vice President Harris will win this historic presidential race. Stocks rallying, the Dow up 427 points at the closing bell, the biggest one-day point and percentage gain for the Dow since October 9th. The S&P 500 managed a closing gain of 70 points, and the Nasdaq surged 259 points as the Mag 7 and other big tech names rallied today on this election day. Both the S&P 500 and the Dow scoring their sixth consecutive election day gains, while the Nasdaq saw its fifth straight positive election day. Stock staging a strong rally after the October ISM Services report showed economic activity in the services sector expanded at the best pace we've seen in a couple of years. Also, Palantir Technology shares jumping 23.5% after that company posted accelerating quarterly growth in its earnings news that came out last night. And that gain fueled by artificial intelligence, as was noted by MarketWatch. Shares of Trump Media all over the place today, recently halted for a third time today as the stock rallied off its session lows following a sharp drop that had triggered two halts earlier. DJT, seen as a proxy for the re-election of President Trump, bouncing around and closing down just 40 cents today at $33.94 a share. Gold moving higher today, close to $2,750 an ounce. Cryptos also got a boost with the Bitcoin right now hovering at around 69,629. We'll talk cryptos live later this hour with an expert on the crypto scene from decrypt.co. And oil futures climbed today for a fifth session with tension in the oil market as headlines around the election continue. Turmoil in the Middle East, of course, and economic issues in China. Also now a potential hurricane expected in the Gulf of Mexico. So all of that impacting energy prices once again. As you heard at the top of the hour, factory workers at Boeing voted to accept a contract offer and end their strike after more than 7 weeks, clearing the way for Boeing to restart the Pacific Northwest assembly lines. Boeing shares today closed down $4.07 at $151. Boeing's 33,000 striking machinists disbanded their picket lines late yesterday after leaders of the IAM, the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, in Seattle said 59% of union members there who cast ballots agreed to okay the company's fourth formal offer, which included a 38% wage increase over 4 years. Big day and a big week. We're also going to be having a Fed meeting this week on Thursday. It's widely expected Fed policymakers will cut interest rates by a quarter percentage point on Thursday. And we'll be hearing from Fed Chairman Jerome Powell, who may also react to the outcome of today's race for the White House. He, of course, was appointed by President Trump. Joining us live now, investment expert Brian Perry, Chief Investment Strategist and Portfolio Manager at Mint Asset Management at mintassetmanagement.com. Brian Perry, thank you very much for stepping up to the plate here on this big election day and a big day for the market. Give us your view of things here at the moment.
Thank you, Frank. And it is election day in America. It's a wonderful situation. We get to exercise our freedoms to elect our local, state, and national leaders that will likely result in a very long night and possibly days or weeks even ahead of reaching finality in many of these political contests. Several of these key races are too close to call. It's just going to define how divided Americans are split on power on these pivotal issues. But in America's democracy, the transition of power, Frank, and it really has never been without. It has not, really had a major disruption going back to the early days of the founding fathers. So Wall Street is voting heavily for a clean election where the decisions of winners and losers aren't twisted in the wind, that set off, recounts galore. So the street is also voting for a split Congress to balance the power of Washington, where the federal deficit is about to top $36 trillion. This might account for part of the reason why bond yields have been ratcheting higher in the last, week or two here. There's just so little conviction by those running for office to control spending and bring the budget in line with tax receipts. So that'll all be up for discussion here after the election. But the promises are wide and deep from both campaigns. And at the same time, the economy is moving ahead. Forecasted growth rate now of 2.3% per the latest Atlanta Fed GDP Now reading, and that's down from 2.7% from October 31st. So a pretty good haircut from just a week ago. With gross domestic product trending lower, the Fed is certainly going to lower Fed funds rate by a quarter point to 4.5 to 4.75 this week, Thursday, and will very likely cut again by another quarter point in December. So, but let's get through the next 24 hours and see where all the political landscape shapes up. Aside from obvious uncertainty regarding the elections all through tonight, the market is really laser focused on stock by stock earnings season, which has really delivered a pretty upbeat set of numbers here across the board for most sectors here. There's just an attitude that great companies with robust sales and earnings growth, Frank, they're just going to continue to be bought, on pullbacks or using any kind of volatility that the market might bring in the next few days or weeks. I wrote a piece over the weekend here about election-proof themes that, where people can just say, whoever wins or whatever sweep it may be, these particular themes are intact. They're secular, which means they're multi-year. They're going to continue to see large flows of capital investment, and there's just no way around it. And they're domestic for the most part. So you don't have to take on this geopolitical risk either. AI cap spending, which is just they're talking like $300 billion for next year alone. Now bear in mind this number is huge, and all the capital spending really doesn't start to monetize itself until on the end result, the sales and revenue start to generate about $600 billion by the hyperscalers, and that's the Amazon and Alphabet and Microsoft, and the big names like that. So there's the bet is still on. It's very big, but companies that don't do this, that don't put AI into place, they're going to lose market share. AI allows companies to get leaner and meaner and more profitable, and so therefore it is a massive disruptive technology that's going to continue to dominate next year as well into the fourth quarter here. So NVIDIA is obviously the belle of the ball in this whole thing. But there's other, and they just replaced Intel this week too, in the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which the folks at Dow Jones, they're R&D people that do this due diligence. They think that NVIDIA's got a long runway here. This is not just a 1 year or 2 year wonder. They wouldn't have done this move if they didn't think NVIDIA had a really long a runway here for sales and earnings. So with that said, we want to be in the picks and shovels plays, Frank, when it comes to this build out of this AI story here. And not so much on the hyperscalers, but on the companies that provide the infrastructure. And there's many names in that area. The power grid that has to be built out in order to supply the needed power to run these data centers and to run AI. Right now, AI consumes about 3% of all power and domestic power. That's going to rapidly move to 8% to 10% in the next 2 or 3 years. So we've got utilities are growth stories again here, and the companies that help those utilities expand their capacity are really good buys. Cybersecurity, AI is not just for the good guys. The dark web and all the cybercrime is just exploding using AI. So cybersecurity spending is going to continue to soar, and it's important that those companies that have leading, cutting-edge anti-AI cybersecurity are going to really continue to do extremely well here, and those budgets for cybersecurity are going to continue to very expand well. And lastly, this hurricane season here is bigger than Katrina. The combination of these hurricanes has cost over $130 billion in damage in the South. And so therefore, those companies that are in the remediation business and the rebuilding, not just Home Depot and Lowe's, but I've talked about road construction partners, ROAD, and there's other names in there that are in the remediation, but for flooring and asphalt, cement, and clean harbors, that reconstruct all the harbors and waterways and sewers and things that all got damaged. There's a 3-year spending binge that's going to take place here in the South, and those companies that are lined up because you got to rebuild the South, and that comes, with another hurricane coming along, like you just mentioned, and 2 more hurricane seasons ahead of us. So there is continued revenue generation for those companies that are positioned well to take care of those types of rebuilding efforts. So those are areas where I think that people can, not be, goosed by the market here because we've got this volatility that's going to shape up, but use the volatility to, find those stocks that are in these themes. If they do back and fill, because most of them are trading at premiums because they're obvious winners. But if you do get a market where it gets volatile, you got a chance here to position yourself in some really great secular themes at prices that will hopefully provide us all an opportunity to buy well off the highs here.
On the air live with investment expert Brian Perry, Chief Investment Strategist and Portfolio Manager at Mint Asset Management at mintassetmanagement.com. Also author, by the way, of the 25% Cash Machine. Intel is set to be replaced in the Dow 30 by NVIDIA, as you mentioned, and Dow Chemical also getting dumped off the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the Dow 30 for Sherwin-Williams, the paint company. So we're going to keep an eye on that one, too, here, and maybe paint the town red here, right? NVIDIA got a pop today, up nearly $4, back to $139 and change. And you mentioned some of the AI names, Palantir jumping $10, almost $10 a share today to $51.13. That one has burst on the scene. Certainly, we've seen an impressive rebound for all of the Mag 7 names. What do you see ahead for these AI plays and for the other, the Magnificent 7 list here?
Well, certainly Palantir's business to the government and the military just exploded way higher than anybody had anticipated. The analyst community has a target price of $28, which is, with the stock up here in the mid-40s, they're well out of the realm of reality here with this company. So it's interesting. The stock closed at 50.88 today, up $9.47 or 23%. It's a fantastic story. Peter Thiel is one of the founders there from Silicon Valley, and you've got really, really fine management. So that is probably next to NVIDIA, the most exciting story in AI right now. And you've still got other names like, Broadcom, which is still pushing higher here. And you've got this other name, which I even added it today as it's going towards new highs, is Marvell, MRVL. These companies are just, you can see the leadership really defining itself in AI in terms of those companies that fund managers are buying hand over fist, and it's interesting where, again, these are the picks and shovels names here. All gold rushes, Frank, are filled with miners, where, maybe 10% of the people strike gold, but everybody needs shovels and picks to mine. And so the build out of these data centers and the stacking of these chip systems and the what are called liquid cooled servers, which is Dell Technologies. We saw Supermicro post earnings tonight, which is down. That company's been under incredible, under the Hindenburg short report and all that kind of thing. So that's an avoid for me at the moment here until their 10K comes out. But the leadership is really getting well defined. Vertiv, which is another infrastructure, VRT, is another name, up $6 today. So you can see the market really gravitating hard. Actually, the market is getting more narrow, and with more narrow leadership here. But it's moving straight into those names. We've had the third quarter now come by us here and post sales and earnings for all these great companies. And now you have fund managers making up their minds about what stocks do I need to own for my portfolio for year-end window dressing. And it is many of these big names here. We saw Amazon, Alphabet, and post up great numbers too. So the market is getting, I think, crystal clear as to who the year-end winners are going to be.
On the air live with investment expert Brian Perry, and of course DJT stock, Donald J. Trump media stock was halted for volatility today. It's seen a wild ride and is seen as a proxy for whether President Trump gets reelected here, hovering at around 33 and change. What do you make of that one and some of the other Trump proxy stocks here? And of course, on the flip side, what do you see if Vice President Harris prevails? Why don't you size things up, given the two names on the ballot here today?
Well, the Trump trade is on. I mean, the market's definitely, when you see bond yields, pop a little bit higher, like we've seen during the course of the week, and then these types of stocks, which are, levered to, the market generally is levered toward lower corporate taxes. So that's, I believe, why you're seeing kind of a net bid in the market, but it doesn't necessarily mean that this is how it's going to turn out tomorrow. Not even close. The DJT, I actually had a client short the stock today when it was up like $6 and then covered in the aftermarket here, because it may be a buy the rumor, sell the news type of situation, which is so true in a number of these things here, like Fox, had great numbers also, FOXA, but that was all politically driven ad revenue, and but they have great sports revenue also. But at the same time, you got to be careful not to buy into the moment or into the event, because usually it's priced into the underlying security. So we could see DJT move higher here. It's hard to say, but the fact that it was up 5, it got halted 3 times, and then you had people just like to take money off. That's a trading stock, and that's great. But it's at the same time, I think people will just move on with these other types of themes once the elections are over, Frank. So I'd be careful not to be jumping into this name, even if Trump wins.
All right, a lot of wild cards on the table today, of course, but as best you can tell here, Brian Perry, at this point, where would you be putting money now and/or taking it off the table?
Well, despite the bad day for Boeing, I started buying it yesterday because the union leadership was really guiding their members to take the deal, because it was the third offer, 40% rise in wages, excuse me, and other pension or other benefits. So that looked good to me. Also, Blackstone here, BX, I've been buying back into that. That ran up to about 175, 180, and it pulled back there to 169. They're just they're going to be a big winner if Trump does win from the private equity side. I also like Flutter, which is FLUT. They own FanDuel, which is the biggest betting site in the world, and they're expanding all around the world. And the stock is going to have earnings out here on November 12th. I think they're going to be really good blowout numbers here. Stock's around 227, to pull back from 255, and I think it's going to just move considerably higher. Again, I've been buying some gold here too, Frank. We've had a bit of a respite in gold here for the last week, so I've been buying the GLD as well as the GDX, which are the miners, and looking for that too. The miners were at 44 GDX, and now it's at 40, so that's a nice 10% correction. And normally the miners move about 2x of that of the underlying bullion itself. So if you get a 5% move in gold, you should get a 10% move in the miners. I've been buying some more Amazon here. They had great numbers there, and we're coming into the retail season, and the consumer's in pretty decent shape. And that AWS business, their cloud business was strong, and the stock technically broke out. So that looks really good here. I think that from the Mag 7 standpoint, this one looks really good. And also the last but not least is Road Construction here, ROAD, Construction Partners. I think they're the purest play in the whole remediation hurricane play. Coming off, I actually, for trading accounts, I took off Palantir. It's just, when you see a flagpole move like that, for traders, you own some and you trade some. That's how I kind of work with these names that are on these up and hard to the right charts. And I had some Chewy on board, which was this large, e-commerce pet commerce company, and they got added to the S&P 400 mid cap. The stock hasn't done anything since I owned it, so I took that off the table here too. And for those people that are owning this China stimulus trade, that looks dangerous because the Wynn reported really some awful numbers here today, and stock got hammered. And that's a very well run company, so be careful about that China trade.
All right, Brian, thanks again very much for that thoughtful analysis. As always, we do appreciate it on such a big day here today, Election Day 2024. Brian Perry, Chief Investment Strategist and Portfolio Manager at Mint Asset Management at mintassetmanagement.com, also author of the 25% Cash Machine. Brian, thank you very much for joining us live here this afternoon on Motek on Money on 790 KBC. Friends, it's Frank Motek here. Did you know that for more than 10,000 years, gold has been the greatest store of value and considered a safe haven asset to preserve your wealth? Now with the U.S. debt at more than $35 trillion and climbing, not to mention the Biden administration getting us involved in costly wars, developing the digital dollar, central bank digital currency, and inflation spiraling out of control, it's more critical now than ever before to safeguard your assets like your cash savings and retirement accounts with physical gold. Opening a gold IRA is one of the best ways to secure your wealth and create a stable financial future. Stop worrying about your retirement and the market and cash savings in the bank. Feel confident, prepared, and in control with physical gold and, yes, silver. Give Joe Morgan a call now at 1-800-753-8534. Mention Frank Motek, and you could get $1,000 worth of silver with a qualifying purchase. Call now 1-800-753-8534 or visit UnitedGoldGroup.com. Motek on Money continues here in 790 KBC. The results are in. The Dow is up 427 points at the closing bell at 42,222. The S&P 500 moving up 70 points at the closing bell at 5,783. The NASDAQ up 259 at 18,439. The yield in the 10-year note is up there at 4.29%. Polls starting to close back east. We'll have live election night coverage for you right here with John Phillips, Randy Wang, and yours truly chiming in on economic issues and other such things tonight. Election night coverage right here live on 790 KABC. Price of oil higher today. Right now, 72.08 a barrel in New York. And in London, the Brent crude numbers is 75.54 a barrel. Shares of DJT, that's Trump Media and Technology Group, moving higher in after-hours trading right now after the social media platform surprised the market with third-quarter results on election night. After the markets closed, the company, which trades under the ticker symbol DJT, reported a third-quarter operating loss of $23.7 million and a net loss of $19.2 million. That apparently better than most analysts had expected. DJT shares had closed down 40 cents at $33.94, moving up about 5% now in after-hours trading. Shares of Boeing down 407 to 151 after the machinist strike there ended last night. Gold higher today, up nearly $8 at $2,745.35 an ounce, and silver up 5 cents at $32.83 an ounce. Crypto's back in focus. Bitcoin up about 200 now at 69,629. Ethereum up 19 at 2,433. And Doge at the moment at 17 cents. We'll talk crypto with Jason Nelson from Decrypt coming up in the next half hour. But right now, the latest news for you here on 790 KABC. Motorcycle Money continues here on 790 KABC. Good afternoon. It's the economy stupid, crime too. In Los Angeles, big issues on this Election Day 2024. Also today, the LA Police Commission recommended a salary amount for the new police chief, incoming police chief, appointed by the current mayor. Jim McDonald, former LA County Sheriff, set to become the new LAPD chief. Joining us live now, the Honorable Dennis Zine, former LA City Council member, former LAPD sergeant, and current reserve officer, with a last check about 56 years of service and counting to the City of Angels. Dennis Zine is on the line. Good afternoon, Dennis Zine.
Good afternoon to you and all the listeners, and I hope the listeners have voted because this is going to be an incredible nationwide election. It is tense, it is exciting, and we'll see what happens in a few days. It's going to be days before we have the final count, but it's very interesting. I've been through many elections. This one exceeds all that I've been through in my entire life. It's unbelievable how exciting it is and how much danger there seems to be with some of the folks that want to create havoc within the United States of America. So it's an interesting subject, interesting comments, and talk about the chief of police. He already has a salary cut, Frank. The salary has already been cut from the initial to $450,000. They want to bring it down a bit because I guess there's some criticism with the finances of the city of Los Angeles. And let me comment. I know Jim McDonald personally. He's a wonderful man. Long Beach Police, Sheriff's Department, LAPD. He has a wonderful pension from his years at the LAPD. And when they talked about the salary of $500,000, which is really exorbitant, they now brought it down to $450,000. But let's comment honestly. He already has a police pension. I think he did close to 30 years with the LAPD. He already has a wonderful pension. This is all on top of that. So he'll be well comforted in his years, 5 to 10 years, which the term of the LA police chief can do under the charter. So it's a lot of money, but there's a lot of challenges. And while we're talking about challenges, the latest report shows the LAPD numbers as of this month, the 2nd of November, 8,773 officers, all ranks, the chief to the recruit in the academy, 8773. Last month, it was 8795. So the numbers continue to fall as people retire and decide that they're going to take retirement, and many times they move out of the state of California for a variety of reasons. So a lot of challenges, but I know the LAPD is on alert along with the sheriffs and Highway Patrol. This is going to be an interesting night. I know our district attorney candidate, Nathan Hochman, I'm going to go to his celebration tonight. I think he will prevail in that race, and I think we'll hopefully get back to reporting good crime statistics versus the current numbers. What we see is always hostile crime, a lot of crime. And I caution the listeners, when there is a crime, when your home is broken into, when your catalytic converter is stolen, whatever happens, report that. That's how they judge it, based on your reports. You don't report it, it doesn't happen, it doesn't count. But currently, the officers' numbers are reducing and the crime numbers aren't as bad as they used to be, because I think a lot of people aren't reporting crimes as they occur within their residence or business environment.
The other important thing on the ballot today, Prop 36, which rolls back some of Prop 47, right? Imposing stricter penalties for some of the things, the crazy things we've been seeing out there, the shoplifting and retail theft and so forth. What about Prop 36 here?
Wonderful. I think that'll pass. I think there'll be a huge number. People understand there's got to be consequences when you commit crimes. I mean, we have 15-year-old kids on bicycles raiding a 7-Eleven. I mean, 15 years old going into a 7-Eleven, raiding the place in a massive environment, the street takeovers. All these activities happen because they know there's no consequences. And their current district attorney, Gascon, has done everything he can to create a crime environment for Los Angeles County. So it's about time that he leaves office. I think he thinks he's going to get around. I don't think he will. I think he'll be gone. That Proposition 36 will help bring about stability, along with the DA who's going to prosecute people. When you go out and commit a robbery, when you break in someone's house, when you steal someone's property, there's got to be consequences. And the current system, obviously, we know it has not worked. The crime statistics bear that out. And the victims, many of your listeners, I'm sure, are victims of crime within Los Angeles County, and they're saying, is anything going to change? Well, it will change when we have a new DA, and that proposition will make a difference, because we'll see prosecution. People will be held accountable for their illegal activity, hurting other individuals within the community and the county of Los Angeles, including the city and all the 88 cities. Remember, LA County is 88 cities. They all have to suffer under the consequences, whether the DA is good or bad. They all have to suffer under that consequence when they don't decide to prosecute individuals who commit these crimes.
Sounds like things are moving in the right direction from a law enforcement standpoint, if it all plays out that way. And if LAPD Chief McDonald is confirmed, I believe the city council is planning to vote on Friday, right? Or is it this Friday or next Friday, and approve that salary?
I believe it's this Friday, though, and I will guarantee it's not going to be a unanimous vote. Well, he didn't get unanimous vote on the committee, the Public Safety Committee. I will guarantee you he will not get a unanimous vote, which shows how some of the people on the LA City Council don't support and don't believe in public safety. I think they're a Gascon supporter, which is terrible for the people of Los Angeles, the taxpayers, the business folks. But I will bet you're not going to see unanimous support. I hope there's enough, 8 votes. I hope there's enough to confirm Chief McDonald, a wonderful man, a lot of experience. But I will say from my heart, there's people in that city council, elected officials, that do not support law enforcement, do not support the LAPD, and they will vote against, whether it's the salary or something else. They'll find a reason to vote against Chief McDonald. He should get a unanimous, but I don't think that'll happen.
And certainly an illustrious law enforcement background, as you noted, formerly with the LAPD, and then went on to be the chief of the Long Beach Police Department and LA County Sheriff, and now coming back in as the LAPD chief. So certainly it sounds like the right guy in the current environment, coming up ahead of the 2028 Olympics as well.
He's a wonderful man, a lot of experience, well respected. The officers are very excited about seeing him come on board to lead the organization. He will make some positive changes. I've met with him recently and discussed some issues with him. I have a lot of respect for the man. He's got a lot of support. He just needs to get the council to get on board along with the mayor. The mayor is very supportive. A lot of the council members do support, but when you have council members that don't support public safety, that sends a strong message to the criminal element. But unanimous, when I was a city council member for 12 years, we did not have council members voting against public safety. You now have that in city council, and that's a reflection of some of the attitudes. If they don't support public safety, then they don't care if you get murdered or your home gets broken into or your car gets stolen, and that's a terrible environment for the Los Angeles City elected officials. And we need to have them understand public safety is paramount for the people of the city of Los Angeles. As we come up to those momentous occasions, including the Olympics that are going to be monumental. I worked the 84 Olympics. It was a challenging assignment. We did a great job, and we need to have the resources to do that again, and a council that supports the men and women of the LAPD who are going to deliver public safety to this region of Southern California.
All right, certainly the Help Wanted sign is up at the LAPD, very under-policed at the moment. You mentioned 8,773 sworn officers at the moment. What should it be, and what's your message to the folks who may want to consider a career in the LAPD at this point?
Well, they're looking for 10,000 or close to 10,000. Again, in October, it was 8795. Now it's 8773. So the numbers are going down instead of up. If you're interested in a career in law enforcement, LAPD is fine. The sheriffs are fine. Everybody's hiring. If you want a job in law enforcement, now's the time to jump on board. You got to have a clean background, etc. But we need to have people join law enforcement, whether it's a dispatcher or a police officer or some of the other civilian responsibilities. They're short in all categories. I understand there are 100 dispatchers short. People call 911 and the phone rings. Well, why doesn't it answer on the first or second ring? Because they don't have dispatchers available. So the LAPD is really lacking in having the personnel to provide public safety for the people of Los Angeles. If you don't want to be an officer and carry a gun and go out and arrest bad people, wouldn't be a dispatcher. Handle the calls for service to help those people, the jailers, custodial personnel. There's many, many functions available in addition to being a police officer in the city of Los Angeles. But again, we're not the only game in town. The sheriffs are hiring, the highway patrol's hiring, many small departments are hiring. But if you have that will, that desire, it's a good career. I've been involved in it 56 years, and I'm currently a reserve officer. I did my 33 and retired, went to city council. But I'm telling you, it's a great career. I have a son who's on the job. He enjoys it. So the Zine name continues in law enforcement, public safety in Los Angeles Police Department, LA City.
That's wonderful. The Honorable Dennis Zine, former Los Angeles City Council member, former LAPD sergeant, current reserve officer. And I was right, 56 years and counting service to the City of Angels. Dennis Zine on the line. We always appreciate it. We'll keep an open line to you. We wish everyone there a peaceful night as well on this election night 2024. Thank you very much for coming to the line here this afternoon.
My pleasure, Frank. Thank you, and good luck to your listeners.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dennis Zine. And let's get out to the freeways now. 790 KABC. Motaco Money continues here in 790 KABC. Looking forward to joining John Phillips and Randy Wang tonight for election night coverage right here in 790 KABC. In the meantime, Bitcoin in the lead this evening. The price of Bitcoin higher today on this election day, with a lot of folks in the crypto world rooting for former President Trump to win, Republican nominee, and former President Trump branding himself as the pro-crypto candidate this year, saying he wants all future Bitcoin on U.S. soil and vowing to protect the crypto business. Current Vice President Kamala Harris hasn't said too much about digital assets, but has indicated plans to be friendlier than Joe Biden has been as president, and said she will push for regulation. A lot riding on the election today in so many ways, including in the crypto space. And joining us live now is Jason Nelson, reporter at Decrypt.co, authoritative source for crypto information and news. Jason, thanks very much for taking the call on this election night here. Size things up for us here. What's at stake as far as the presidential election is concerned as it relates to the crypto world?
Well, thank you for having me. A lot of what is at stake is really based on who you decide to vote for president, really. Both candidates, like you said, have made overtures towards the crypto community, but former President Trump has been more overt with his overtures, including launching his own decentralized product. He's also made very distinct claims of what he will do for crypto, establish a Bitcoin reserve, like you said, bring home Bitcoin mining, to bring Bitcoin mining to America, protect self-custody rights, and he even showed up at the Bitcoin conference earlier this year.
Right, so certainly he's gotten quite a reception among the in the crypto world. Right, on the flip side, what kind of regulation is Vice President Harris talking about, and what would that do to cryptos?
She hasn't really been vocal on specifics. Her agenda was updated about a month or two ago, basically saying that she wants to protect investors. And she originally, it was sort of focused towards Black men as a part of bringing in that voting sector, but it was broadened out to include everyone because that specificity was concerning for a lot of people, including people thinking that it might put an unfair burden on Black voters.
Very interesting. And in the meantime, recently Bitcoin ran up close to its all-time high. It's hovering, just below 70,000 here at last check. What are the folks there talking about where Bitcoin goes from here?
Well, again, depends on who you're voting for. A lot of the sentiment says that if Trump wins, it's going to be very good for Bitcoin. Some are speculating 80,000, 90,000. And then if he loses, down to 50,000, but that really depends on who you are listening to. And then at the same time, none of us have crystal balls, and we won't know what happens until after it happens.
And as far as analysis of crypto, especially Bitcoin, how have things evolved? We've been hearing these wild predictions, and the most plausible explanation that I've heard, it goes up because it goes up, and it goes down because it goes down. Is there anything more to it? What kind of analysis do you rely on when it comes to Bitcoin, for example?
Well, Bitcoin tends to fluctuate around major events. For example, when the SEC approved the first Bitcoin ETFs earlier this year, the price of Bitcoin went up. When we had the financial crisis hitting a few of the banks last year, Bitcoin went down. So it's not just random. These are people either hedging their bets that something is going to happen in their favor, or taking out their money because they're afraid something's going to be working against their favor. So it's not just randomness. These are people making informed decisions, I believe. All
right. Well, appreciate your shedding more insight into that. And of course, there's Bitcoin and all these other altcoins and meme coins, and we want to make this conversation as understandable to the general public as possible. Ethereum, probably the second most widely known crypto coin out there, right? Also has an ETF. Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs burst on the scene this year. That was some of the big news in the crypto world this year. And then those meme coins, Dogecoin and Shiba Inu, for example. Maybe you can take us through some of the highlights, some of the news-driven headlines you're getting there related to the altcoin moves we've seen recently.
Well, right now, the Dogecoin, for example, is seeing a pump because, for one, it's Elon Musk's favorite cryptocurrency. He said that on numerous occasions. And today it hit about 17 cents. The other altcoins, and especially the meme coins, a lot of them are just, it's a case of, rising tide lifts all boats, right? The coins that are of particular interest really are the political coins, the ones that are based on former President Trump, Vice President Harris, and President Joe Biden. Depending on who wins, you're going to see a lot of these either increase in value or go to zero because they're based on a particular person or a particular event. And in those cases, you're going to see a lot more volatility than you will around, say, a Shiba Inu or Bonk or a Dogecoin, which already has a built-in community.
Excellent point. It should be noted it goes up and it goes down. So thanks for that reminder as well. Jason Nelson, reporter at decrypt.co. Thank you very much, Jason. We'll be following all of this closely with you tonight. Stay tuned now for the 790 KBC News Blitz with Randy Wang and then extended election night coverage. I'll be joining Randy and John Phillips. Will be yours truly in the mix as well tonight. Election coverage here on 790 KBC.
O'Shea Jackson Jr. and TJ Jefferson bring their unique take on sports entertainment with no contest wrestling, with guests like Swerve Strickland.
Why do you use staples like sensu beans, man?
No, it was just something, the concept I came up with. It's an instrument used to punish. It was just finding those common items. If you see them, you automatically think back to me in that moment. So it's one of those things I wanted to just implement in like my whole character, being the most dangerous man in AEW.
The No Contest Wrestling Podcast, part of the Rich Eisen Podcast Network, wherever you listen.